Motorcycles are symbols of freedom, speed, and individuality. They can be the ultimate thrill machines, capable of transforming an ordinary road into an unforgettable adventure. But the same qualities that make them so exhilarating can also make them dangerously unforgiving. A split-second mistake, an overconfident maneuver, or simply the wrong bike in the wrong hands can end with devastating consequences. And while most riders escape with scrapes or close calls, some motorcycles have gained reputations for being especially brutal. Machines that didn't just throw people off, but literally left bones broken. Each bike earned its reputation either through raw power, flawed design, or simply being too much machine for too little rider. This isn't about shaming motorcyclists, it's about understanding the risks, the engineering, and the stories behind machines that have left lasting scars. Motorcycles are not inherently dangerous. They are tools. But unlike cars, motorcycles don't give riders much margin for error. There's no protective shell, no airbags, and no safety net other than skill, awareness, and sometimes luck. For this reason, some motorcycles have earned reputations as bone breakers. This label doesn't always mean poor engineering. In fact, some of these bikes are technological marvels, pushing the limits of what's possible in two-wheel performance. The problem arises when raw power collides with human limitation. A misjudged throttle twist, an underestimation of torque, or a split-second lapse in control can result in high-side crashes, over-the-bars flips, or devastating low-sides. And when that happens, bones, from collarbones to wrists and femurs to ribs, are often the first casualties. With that in mind, let's break down 9 motorcycles that earned a reputation for literally breaking their riders. Number 9. Suzuki Hayabusa. The Suzuki Hayabusa stormed onto the scene in 1999 and instantly rewrote motorcycle history. Designed for one goal, unmatched velocity, it became the fastest production motorcycle available, brushing against the sacred 200 miles per hour barrier with unapologetic ease. This wasn't a machine that simply moved. It devoured asphalt with relentless hunger. But speed on this level is never forgiving. Many riders underestimated the Hayabusa's raw acceleration. A twist of the throttle launched it from 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds, leaving little margin for hesitation. Corners were approached like ambushes, and those who entered too hot often found themselves airborne, separated from both motorcycle and dignity in a single violent heartbeat. The aftermath of such encounters wasn't subtle. Collarbones gave way under the force of unplanned dismounts. Wrists cracked as riders tried instinctively to break falls. Legs folded at impossible angles after low-side slides. The Hayabusa earned its reputation not because it failed, but because riders often did. Yet, the machine's danger is only half its legacy. To those who respected it, the Hayabusa was a marvel. Its smooth aerodynamics, its endless pull, and its ability to transform highways into blur-filled tunnels. It wasn't built for the casual commuter. It demanded discipline and razor-sharp awareness. For thrill seekers, it was ecstasy. For the careless, it was a harsh teacher that rarely handed out second chances. Number 8. Kawasaki Ninja H2. When Kawasaki unveiled the Ninja H2, the motorcycle world gasped. A production bike with a factory-fitted supercharger? It sounded outrageous, and it was. Capable of soaring past 200 miles per hour with acceleration that felt like a rocket strapped to 2 wheels, the H2 redefined what mechanical audacity looked like on the road, but immense power is a double-edged sword. Riders who underestimated the H2 quickly discovered that its ferocity left little room for error. A small twist in the lower gears didn't just move the bike forward, it tried to rip arms from sockets. The supercharger delivered torque so suddenly that wrists bent backward, and with it, control often evaporated. One of the most notorious hazards came from the dreaded high-side crash. When the rear wheel lost traction under brutal acceleration and then abruptly regained grip, it catapulted riders skyward. The landing was rarely graceful. Broken arms, fractured spines, and shattered hips became part of the cautionary tales that followed this engineering marvel. And yet, admiration for the H2 never dwindled. Its flawless build quality, precision handling, and intoxicating sound kept it on a pedestal. It represented what happens when engineering ambition ignores limits. But every ride was a gamble, reminding motorcyclists that the line between exhilaration and agony can be razor thin. The H2 didn't just test speed, it tested human survival instincts. Number 7. Honda CR500R. The Honda CR500R didn't just carve a place in dirt bike history, it bulldozed its way in. Built from the mid-1980s into the early 2000s, this two-stroke monster became infamous for one thing: overwhelming power. Riders weren't met with smooth delivery. Instead, the CR500R's engine had a vicious power bend that hit like a switch being flipped, and it was rarely gentle about it. One moment, you'd be rolling steadily through dirt or sand, and the next, the rear tire would be spinning ferociously as the front wheel clawed toward the sky. Controlling that surge required nerves of steel and reflexes that bordered on supernatural. Those who lacked either were swiftly ejected, often before they realized what went wrong. The aftermath of being launched by this bike wasn't just bruised pride. Collarbones took the brunt of sudden landings, wrists snapped from desperate attempts to hold on, and shoulders dislocated from awkward tumbles. Off-road tracks turned into crash sites, and the CR500R's reputation grew with each battered rider. Yet despite its reputation, or perhaps because of it, the bike developed a cult following. Enthusiasts admired its raw, unfiltered character in a world moving toward refined, predictable machines. The CR500R wasn't forgiving, but it was unforgettable. For veterans who mastered it, conquering this beast became a badge of honor. For everyone else, it was a harsh reminder that dirt doesn't cushion as much as you'd hope. Number 6. Yamaha R1. In 1998, Yamaha unveiled the R1, and the sport bike scene was never the same. Sleek, lightweight, and carrying over 150 horsepower, it set the standard for liter-class motorcycles practically overnight. Riders and reviewers alike hailed it as a marvel of engineering, blending speed, agility, and style into one devastatingly effective package. But the R1 also gained another reputation: breaking bones, especially those belonging to riders who weren't ready for it. The problem wasn't the bike itself, it was flawless for what it was designed to do. The issue was how accessible it became to riders looking for a shortcut to superbike glory. Many skipped straight past smaller, more forgiving machines and saddled themselves with an R1 as their first big bike. The consequences weren't pretty. The R1's throttle response was razor-sharp, its handling demanded precision, and its brakes stopped with brutal immediacy. Newcomers quickly discovered that a slight mistake could end in spectacular fashion. Failed wheelies often dropped riders hard onto pavement, while overcooked corners resulted in painful slides. Hospitals soon became acquainted with injuries from R1 mishaps. Collarbones cracked, wrists fractured, and legs snapped under failed stunts or high-speed tumbles. Even skilled riders admitted the R1 was a machine that punished arrogance swiftly. Still, its reputation never dimmed. For those who respected it, the R1 was thrilling perfection. For those who didn't, it was a very expensive ticket to the emergency room. Number 5. Ducati Panigale V4. The Ducati Panigale V4 arrived with one mission: to bring MotoGP technology to the street. Sporting over 200 horsepower, cutting-edge electronics, and a design that could make passers-by stop mid-step, it instantly became the centerpiece of Ducati's lineup. This wasn't just a motorcycle. It was a rolling piece of Italian art that demanded attention. But behind the beauty lurked a machine with zero patience for sloppy riding. The Panigale V4 was engineered for precision. Riders who hesitated or misjudged throttle input quickly discovered that its power delivery could turn vicious without warning. Even with traction control, ABS, and ride modes, mistakes weren't always forgiven. A poorly timed roll-on mid-corner often meant the rear end stepping out violently, and when that happened, recovery was rarely graceful. Crashes involving the V4 often carried a painful theme. Low sides were common, with riders pinned under the bike's hefty frame. Broken legs and fractured ribs became the calling cards of miscalculated bravado. Those who pushed without respect frequently found themselves nursing injuries while the Panigale sat in the garage, unscathed and waiting. Yet, for riders who mastered it, the V4 was nothing short of magic. Its stability at speed, its ability to carve corners with surgical accuracy, and that intoxicating exhaust note made every ride unforgettable. But one rule always applied. The Panigale didn't meet riders halfway. You either rose to its level, or it reminded you, with painful clarity, that you weren't ready. Number 4. KTM 1290 Super Duke R. The KTM 1290 Super Duke R didn't earn the nickname The Beast by accident. From the moment it launched, it announced itself as one of the most aggressive naked bikes ever built. Packing nearly 180 horsepower from a colossal V-twin engine, it was a motorcycle stripped of subtlety. KTM wanted rawness, and they delivered. What made it so treacherous was its ability to launch into wheelies without the slightest effort. First gear? Vertical. Second gear? Still airborne. Even in third, a careless throttle twist could send riders skyward. Those who weren't prepared found themselves looping out spectacularly, followed by the familiar crunch of bones hitting asphalt. The injuries told the story. Wrists and forearms often snapped from instinctive attempts to brace falls. Collarbones shattered as riders slammed forward after losing balance. Without fairings or wind protection, the Super Duke exposed riders to every ounce of punishment the crash had to offer. At high speeds, the violence of these accidents amplified tenfold. And yet, the chaos was part of its charm. The 1290 Super Duke R was unapologetic, a motorcycle that dared riders to tame it while sneering at hesitation. For those with enough skill and bravery, it delivered unmatched thrills. For those without, it became a brutal reminder that horsepower doesn't negotiate. The beast lived up to its name, and it never cared who was holding the leash. Number 3. Harley-Davidson V-Rod. When Harley-Davidson introduced the V-Rod in the early 2000s, it shocked traditionalists. Co-developed with Porsche, this wasn't the laid-back cruiser Harley fans were used to. Instead, It was a muscular, water-cooled machine that looked mean, sounded ferocious, and delivered torque like a hammer. But all that muscle carried risks. Riders accustomed to Harley's smoother, slower bikes suddenly faced a beast that accelerated with unnerving aggression. The V-Rod could surge forward with a twist of the wrist, and once that power hit, recovering from a mistake was no easy feat. Its weight didn't help either. Tipping the scales at over 600 pounds, the bike punished hesitation. At parking lot speeds, a simple misstep could mean disaster. Once the bike started leaning past balance, there was almost no stopping it. The result? Broken ankles, twisted knees, and fractured legs as riders tried in vain to hold it up. At higher speeds, the consequences grew more serious. Crashes often left riders with shattered ribs or collarbones from the force of impact. The V-Rod was a paradox. It looked like a cruiser, but it behaved like a muscle-bound street fighter. For experienced riders, it offered exhilarating performance and a fresh take on Harley identity. But for the unprepared, it was a wolf in Harley clothing, ready to remind them that torque, once unleashed, always comes with a price. Number 2. BMW S1000RR. The BMW S1000RR burst onto the scene as a superbike designed with German precision. It wasn't just fast, it was engineered to dominate racetracks and redefine what was possible on two wheels. With blistering acceleration, pin-sharp cornering, and electronics that felt straight out of science fiction, it quickly became a benchmark for modern sport bikes. Yet, perfection comes with its own dangers. The S1000RR's razor-sharp handling left no margin for error. Overcook a corner by a fraction, and the bike would punish the miscalculation without hesitation. High-side crashes were particularly notorious, launching riders skyward before gravity brought them down hard. The resulting injuries ranged from broken shoulders and wrists to fractured spines. Even its electronics couldn't save overzealous riders. Traction control, ABS, and wheelie control were all helpful tools, but no system could outthink overconfidence. New riders, seduced by the bike's reputation, often underestimated how immediate its power delivery could be. One careless twist of the throttle was enough to overwhelm reflexes. The S1000RR gained a reputation as a machine that demanded absolute focus and respect. To skilled riders, it was a dream that cornered like it was on rails and accelerated like nothing else. But to the unprepared, it was an unforgiving reminder that precision works both ways. It can make you look perfect, or it can expose every single flaw. Number 1. Triumph Rocket 3. The Triumph Rocket 3 wasn't just a motorcycle, it was an engineering flex. With a 2,294 cubic centimeter inline-3 engine, it debuted as the largest production motorcycle in the world, delivering torque numbers that could rival small cars. On paper, it was outrageous. On the road, it was unforgettable. But all that glory came attached to one undeniable truth: weight. At nearly 800 pounds, the Rocket 3 wasn't a bike you could muscle around easily. Once it started to tip, physics took over, and riders who tried to fight it often ended up with twisted knees, broken ankles, or fractured legs. The sheer size made even parking lot maneuvers a test of strength and skill. In a straight line, the Rocket 3 was astonishing. Twist the throttle, and it launched forward with drag strip levels of force. But cornering that much mass, or controlling it at low speeds, was another story entirely. Drop it once, and the bike didn't just scratch paint, it claimed bones. Despite the risks, The Rocket 3 earned legions of fans. It wasn't just about speed, it was about presence, the sheer spectacle of riding something so massive yet so refined. Riders loved it because it was absurd, excessive, and unapologetically over the top. But every owner quickly learned one lesson: respect the weight or pay for it in casts and crutches. Motorcycles will always carry risk, but they also carry reward. The bikes we've talked about today have earned their reputations not because they're bad machines, but because they show what happens when ambition collides with reality. Which of these motorcycles do you think deserves its reputation the most? And if you've ever had a close call or even a broken bone because of a bike, share your story in the comments. Your experience might help another rider think twice. If you found this breakdown interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future videos. We've got plenty more stories about the machines, the legends, and sometimes the dangers of two wheels. Stay safe out there, ride smart, and we'll see you in the next one.